Right now, we live in a nation that is plagued with empty grocery store shelves and all kinds of shortages. Now, the problem that we're seeing in this nation is not the function of the economy just not producing enough, as we've seen historically in all these different socialist nations. What is going on is that the government decided, in response to a disease, a pandemic, to shut down portions of the economy because they told us they would be able to deem what is and isn't essential. And one of the results of that is what we call the supply chain crisis, aka the government induced, manufactured, and created supply chain crisis. And when I say manufactured, I mean manufactured through incompetence 100%. I definitely do not believe, in fact, I know for sure politicians are not smart enough to engineer a supply chain crisis. This is only something that they can do incompetently due to the fact that they have hubris and they think that they can manage the economy. They could deem what is or isn't essential, and there won't be these obvious consequences of their actions. And the thing is, look at the numbers. Look at the numbers of people who have died in the United States of America due to the virus. And then look at some of the worst projections that we were getting early on. We're right in line with that. So they destroyed the economy all to save people from the virus, and we didn't actually apparently save a lot of people from the virus. This would be humbling to normal people without giant egos, without the egos that would cause them to run for office. But of course, it's only emboldened politicians, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But we do have a sponsor. We're going to get to it, and then I'll catch you on the other side. Look, your bed sheets are pretty disgusting. Let's face the facts. When's the last time you changed them? And the thing is, even if you do change them frequently, they are a breeding ground for all kinds of bacteria. They cause sweating and a bunch of different problems like acne, which they can either worsen or be the cause of. This is why you need to change up your sheets. We need some new innovation in the sleeping market, which is why I recommend Miracle Sheets. Miracle Sheets actually come with an antimicrobial silver embedded in the sheets. And if you think that makes them too hard to actually use, that is not the case. I assure you, these Miracle Sheets are soft and amazing, and I love them 100%. Miracle Sheets. So if you want to try these Miracle Sheets, what you can do is go over to mymiraclesheets.com and you could try them. A 30-day money-back guarantee if you're not completely satisfied, and trust me, you will be. You just get your money back, no questions asked, no problems. Now, I opened this story with America, the United States of America, the good old stars and stripes, 50 states, the best country in the history of the world, way better than any of your other countries. But as is true in the United States is also true in Canada, and that's really what we're going to talk about today, because some of them photos that I was showing you of empty grocery store shelves, all these supply chain issues are also present in Canada. And Canada, since they don't have a 50-state system and they have a far more left-wing country, has actually gone even harder on managing the virus and deeming what is and isn't acceptable. So it would only stand to reason that they would have all these problems in spades, especially in provinces that have restrictions so strict that they make New York City look like Florida. And one of the new restrictions, one of the new ingenious ways that the Canadian government has decided to manage the Canadian economy to mitigate the risk of the virus, is to mandate that all truckers entering Canada actually show proof of vaccination before they get into the country. Now, I've said repeatedly multiple different times that people have control over their borders, or they should have control over their borders, and you should be able to make rules for people to enter your nation. I know that for the left wing, this only applies to people entering the border of a restaurant or entering the border of something else, and doesn't actually apply to entering the southern border of the United States, but this is how it should be the case. However, just because the government makes a decision, just because the government might have a right to make a decision about who enters and leaves their nation, or really who enters their nation, doesn't mean that they can't make terrible decisions, and it doesn't mean that there aren't going to be protests. So during this supply chain crisis, which is created by the governments around the world, they're blocking in truckers who are, despite what the government might deem, essential workers bringing supplies into the nation. And this isn't going to have some small effect. The estimates on what is going to go down in Canada if this were to go into effect is about 30% of truckers are on the road. Canada's grocery stores already look like this. They're already having massive supply chain issues. However, the government of Canada has deemed that control supersedes any of the problems that you petty citizens have to worry about, so it looked like, for a moment, they were just going to go full steam ahead, they were going to power through it, and they were going to teach you guys all a lesson about who's in charge. However, the truckers have revolted, and it has been absolutely epic. I got to show you some of the videos of these truckers.
Well, across the border tonight, Canada is dealing with a growing protest of truckers upset with the vaccine requirement to get into the country. The convoy of truckers has been headed for Ottawa, protesting the vaccine mandate at the border. Now, police in Ottawa say that they have been in touch with protest leaders who have been cooperative, and they're planning for 1,000 to 2,000 protesters in the city this weekend.
Driving through, protesting the nonsense that's going on in Canada, and they seem to be a united front against Canada's authoritarian regime. And a lot of people are on board with them. There's a ton of support for this trucker convoy because a lot of people have decided that they've just had enough of the mandates. They've just had enough of the restrictions. They've had enough of people telling them that we're going to get back to normal soon, but we just need a little bit more power to make sure we get to extra normal extra quickly. They're not buying it anymore, and this, probably more than any other form of protest, seems like it's the one that's punching through because of the way that it's being attacked by the establishment media.
Wow, this is a huge, look at they go forever. This is by Atchison outside of Edmonton, heading to Calgary, January 23rd, 2022, Convoy. More than trucks, lots of cars and trucks. Very impressive. Goes on forever.
I know what you guys are thinking. Sean, sure, that looks great. Sure, I'm happy. I'm glad people are protesting, and in Canada, of all places, absolutely amazing. But here's the thing. That looks like a peaceful protest, and we all know, unless it's a mostly peaceful protest, then no way the left wing is going to support these people. Unless it's people actually protesting for the establishment, for the government, for what the media already agrees with, there's no way they're going to get positive media coverage. And I assure you, that is 100% the case. The media has come down hard against these people, and that's the thing. It's one thing when you're protesting authoritarian government restrictions that are hurting everyday people. It's another thing when you're looting Gucci in order to fight for civil rights. Obviously, if these people were looting Gucci, they would be far better off. Obviously, if they were destroying cities rather than protesting for the right to stock the stores within the cities to serve their fellow man, the media would be on their side. But unfortunately, this is what we're left with. Mostly peaceful protests and borderline terroristic political violence is the luxury of the left wing, so the right wing is going to just have to deal with these peaceful convoys of trucks trying to protest directly at the heart of the issue that they're going up against. And the media is not happy. I've actually seen Canadian officials, or somebody on CBC, which I believe is like the BBC but for Canada, so state-funded media, call into question whether or not these truckers who are directly protesting an issue that affects them, who are being supported by other people who are against the mandates and tired of the supply chain crisis that's caused by the government, are actually agents of the Russians.
Given Canada's support of Ukraine in this current crisis with Russia, I don't know if it's far-fetched to ask, but there is concern that Russian actors could be continuing to fuel things as this protest grows, but perhaps even instigating it from the outset.
Now look, not every left-wing outlet has taken the tactic of calling these truckers who have worked in the United States and Canada for decades, driving these routes for decades, Russian spies or agents being boosted up by the Russians or something connected to the Russians seriously. A lot of other media outlets, a lot of more established and savvy media outlets, have just decided to link these people to other groups that they have tarnished the name of in recent years in America. So you knew this was coming when they were trying to make January 6th the next 9/11. You knew they were going to make 9/11-like comparisons. So Salon has a headline about how this trucker convoy is Canada's version of January 6th. Where were you January 6th? I was in a car dealership looking at a car. Then the guy told me that the car that I was looking at, which had frame damage, actually frame damage wasn't a big deal and I shouldn't be concerned about it. And as I was concerned, as I knew that frame damage was wrong, was immoral, I looked up on the TV and I saw CNN. And on CNN, what did I see? The Republic getting frame damage. Our Republic literally falling before our eyes. A 9/11 plus Pearl Harbor plus the atomic bomb, if it had been dropped on the United States style event. That's what happened January 6th. That's where I was, in a car dealership buying a car. Where were you January 6th? Let me know in the comments down below.
But they are concerned about other groups that have latched on, Some saying they want to turn it into the Canadian version of the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol.
Now, I would hope that it would be obvious that these truckers that are protesting directly against a government policy shouldn't be compared directly to the soldiers that Trump sent to the Capitol to overthrow the Republic and almost kill democracy the world over, only to be prevented by heroes in the Congress like Ocasio-Cortez, who were nearly killed while being blocks away at the time of the incident. I hope people understand that that's a little bit hyperbolic from Salon, and honestly, Salon should be ashamed by comparing these trucker convoys to the absolute worst event in American history, the absolute worst thing that ever happened. When the British burned the White House, it was not as bad as January 6th. Where were you January 6th? I was in a car dealership looking at a car. But that's not the only criticism that is being levied at these truckers who don't even have the decency to loot Louis Vuitton for civil rights. They're protesting peacefully. What's wrong with them? The CBC, on top of the fact that they compared them to Russian assets or some nonsense like that, also put out an article saying, hey, look, truckers, you need to calm down your rhetoric. You need to stop being so mad at the government because it's just not right. Because some of these truckers actually compared government officials who are doing authoritarian crackdowns on them to other authoritarian regimes in the past, like communist regimes, who a lot of the people on the progressive left are actually communists, by the way, and the Nazis. They're like, that's not cool. Don't compare your political enemies to Nazis. Nobody likes when you do that. Also, isn't Antifa a great organization? They know how to mostly peaceful protest those fascist Nazis that are all over the right wing. Where's our Antifa army that we could deploy at these truckers? Because these truckers are just labeling everybody they disagree with Nazis. And obviously, nobody on the left would ever do something like that. They haven't watered down this term so much that the truckers using it in this way is actually more accurate than what we've been presented in the last few years. So yeah, they really need to calm down on their rhetoric. I know they're upset, but their rhetoric is upsetting a lot of people in the government. They really need to chill out on the rhetoric, if you're right. I mean, this is like the January 6th rhetoric. Oh my God, where were you January 6th? And of course, on Twitter, the left-wing cesspool that it is, a site that caters to journalists who know nothing about supply chains and nothing about trucking, nothing about actually going out and working to make the country that you're in actually function. Flew Trucks Clan was actually trending on Twitter because what else do we need when we're talking about people protesting against the establishment? It's every single hit that they use on all of their enemies that they don't like. They're racist. They're too extreme. They're calling everybody communist. What's wrong with them? And on top of that, they're kind of like January 6th. And on top of that, they just need to tone down their rhetoric. And on top of that, they're like the Klan and they're spreading the virus just like the Klan did with the virus. They're probably racist. Did I mention that they're racist? Oh, and also they're working for the Russians. Every single thing in their playbook is being thrown at these people. And the reason why they're throwing all those things at them is because they're actually afraid of these truckers. They're actually afraid of the people who actually make the system go, who actually make the people work, who actually put food on the shelf so we can put it on the table, actually walking away and taking a stand against them.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau blasted all the protesters earlier today.
Small fringe minority of people who are on their way to Ottawa or who are holding unacceptable views that they're expressing do not represent the views of Canadians.
You see, a lot of people talk about how there's not broad support for these people, how there's enough indoctrinated lefties and people over panicked about the virus that they don't have a majority support, but really that does not matter. What you need and what we saw, and this is an actual legit lesson, not a joke lesson that I got from last year's riots, the Black Lives Matter riots, is that if you have an irate minority, even if they're pushing something completely and utterly ridiculous and nonsensical, like defund the police, you can move the needle if you just keep demanding what you want, even though the majority of people don't support you. More people support this trucker convoy than did support defunding the police. In fact, 80-something% of black people who defunding the police was supposed to save didn't support defunding the police. 30% of them supported funding them more. And even despite those numbers, despite the fact that these people were destroying the cities, showing that we should never listen to them, the government still complied with their demands. So I'm 100% behind these truckers. I don't care about the majority support for these truckers. They're actually morally in the right, and they have closer to majority support than those Black Lives Matter rioters did just a year ago. So they should be able to move the needle as long as they're persistent. And yes, I was being serious when I said that the right does not have the luxury to be mostly peaceful. They have to be 100% peaceful to accomplish their goals, but that's a good thing because they're in trucks. They're just showing that they are important to the economy, and they're taking a stand against Canada's government, as they should, because these restrictions are absolutely ridiculous. If you want to get back to normal, if you want the supply chain crisis to end, if you want things to return to some level of sensibleness in this nation and in Canada, then you have to demand that we get back to normal. You have to celebrate non-compliance like this until the government realizes that they're not going to be able to enforce the regime that they've wanted to install ever since we first heard about that virus getting out of Wuhan. Look, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I was unbelievably fortunate comparatively during the course of this pandemic. I already worked from home. It was a gift to me given from you out there in the audience. And I know for a fact, though, that you guys have not all had that same luxury. I know for a fact that you guys have gone through your own hard times, but you got to take a stand, and I'm going to support anybody who takes a stand, because the idea that the government can deny people their fundamental economic liberty by deeming them non-essential was never acceptable. It was never okay, and we should never stand for it again. So yeah, if you want to get out, support this trucker boycott. If you want to get out, do your own boycotts. Don't comply. Call your representatives. Put pressure on them. Tell them you're not interested in them, and tell them ultimately they will be voted out in November, but we're not going to wait till November for us to start enjoying our lives and getting our freedom back. The vaccine's out there. Everybody who's wanted it has been able to get it. It appears like it works in reducing symptoms and reducing deaths. So what we're dealing with is a government of bitter clingers who just don't want to let go of our liberty, and we have to wrestle it back from them. And a peaceful means like this that the truckers are using is an absolutely great way to wrestle those liberties back, and we'll see what the government response is. I'm not expecting a lot from Canada. They have a parliamentary system. It's way easier for them to pass rules, regulations, and restrictions, but we shall see what they will do in response to these liberty-minded protesters. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like this video, you can show me by leaving a like. You can subscribe for more content. You can follow me on all my social medias. You can support me via the support links in the description box. This has been me talking about the trucker boycott in Canada. Till next time.